Buzz, quite the same. I think the two of them, if they have one characteristic in common, I would say intelligence. They're both extremely intelligent people, and it's tough to keep up with them.
They both have a certain amount of reserve, too, which is not bad.
Yes, I believe that's true. They both, unfortunately, tend to be non-communicators, but it's there.
They tell me, I don't know Armstrong that well, but they tell me he has a pretty sly wit on occasion.
He has. Neil has, I think, a wonderful dry wit.
Yeah. Can you recall any little things he's come up with, or is that putting you on the spot?
I don't, no, it doesn't really, but I don't right this second recall any, but you have to be listening closely for him or you miss him. He has a wonderful dry wit.
Well, Michael Collins, who has a wit himself. The Mission Control reported the heartbeats of the astronauts on their liftoff this morning and compared them to the rate of heartbeat that they had in their earlier flights. For Armstrong, his heartbeat this morning was 110. Now, that compares to a beat of 146 when he flew in the Gemini program. And Collins had a heartbeat of 99 today compared to 125 on his previous flight. And Aldrin's heartbeat this morning, as he took off from Cape Kennedy, was only 88. Compared to 110 when he flew in the Gemini mission. So all three men had a lower heartbeat rate this morning than they had on their previous flights, which seems to suggest that there is some advantage to experience. Russia, by the way, has made no mention of today's flight in broadcast and the publications up until yesterday, or through yesterday, very little mention. And it appeared that they were pretty well going to ignore today's flight. But they did broadcast the liftoff at about the time, gave the names of the crew, and this seemed to indicate to some Soviet watchers that they might offer fairly comprehensive coverage of this flight. They did not, however, interrupt their television programming to carry any live pictures of the liftoff from Cape Kennedy. Nor has Moscow had any more to say about the Soviet Union's Lunar 15, which is now on its way to the moon, and with success should land there before the Apollo 11 crew does. The vacuum left by lack of information from Russia about the purpose of Lunar 15 is being filled by speculation, of course, inevitably. And the main current of speculation is that this is an attempt to send a device up and have it make a landing on the moon, scoop up a sample of the lunar soil, and return it to Earth. All without benefit of humans being there. But as we say, that is only speculation. Russia hasn't said what its purpose is and is not likely to until after it's accomplished. It is an advancement of sorts, I suppose you could say, for the Soviet Union to even announce that they have anything underway until it's accomplished, because in the early days of their programs, they never said anything until the whole thing was over. They could not, of course, keep it secret from the world because the skies are being watched by radar all the time, and the rest of the world knew when they launched or attempted a launching. But it was only after the fact and after a success that Russia would even acknowledge that the undertaking had been attempted. Peter, Hackus, what have you there?
Frank, we understand that within the next 20 minutes or so, we are going to get our first transmission from Apollo 11. Now, this will be by use of the camera that we've seen before. This is the color camera, which is inside the command module. This 13-pound camera. Incidentally, it's this camera that the astronauts on Apollo 10, as you recall, sent back those wonderful pictures. And for that reason, they were awarded the honorable Emmys. And so as experts in the field, why, you can expect some other good pictures. This will be the first time. One of the other features that goes with this camera is this very tiny monitor. The screen is approximately the size of, oh, perhaps a credit card, something like that. A cigarette package is smaller than a cigarette package. And what this does is to tell the men in the spacecraft what they're looking at. Now, in the past, there has been some problem of focusing the camera. And what's being done now is that through the use of this tiny camera, the astronauts, that is to say this tiny mini monitor, they're calling it, they can tell more or less where they're focusing the camera. They can't tell exactly, but they can certainly tell the general direction. So by the use of both the camera and this tiny monitor, which they'll be looking at in this fashion, you notice the Velcro on the bottom of the monitor, and this goes either on top or on the side of the camera. They can tell pretty much the pictures they're taking. Now, the lenses, everything is simplicity. As I said, it's very lightweight, 13 pounds, and very simple to operate. They are variable focus lenses. There are about 3 different stops that they have. There's a zoom lens attachment, and from what we saw last time, we should this time get equally good pictures. Now, there's another television camera on Apollo 11. It is not aboard the command module. It's in the lunar module, the LEM, and that is a black and white camera. We've also used that and seen that used in the past. And so this camera will stay aboard the command module. And in fact, we'll be getting pictures between here and the moon, and then we'll be getting pictures all the way back from the moon. The other camera is stowed at this particular moment aboard the LEM, and the LEM, as you know, is folded, and we haven't seen it brought out yet. That camera will be unveiled, so to speak, after the LEM strikes the lunar surface, lands on the moon. And from that moment on, we'll be witness, hopefully, to all of the activities that Armstrong and Aldrin do. In fact, we'll be seeing the first man stepping onto the moon as he actually does it. And then they will remove that camera from its bracket and put it about 30 feet away from the lunar module. And that camera then will continue to play for all of the time that they're on the lunar surface. So we'll see all of that activity. That comes, of course, only after they reach the moon. In the meantime, as I said, within another 15 or 20 minutes, we hope to get the first brief television transmission from Apollo 11. Now, David Brinkley.
Thank you, Peter. Be sure to give that camera back to him. We are told that in several countries around the world, next Monday, is going to be a holiday in the schools and otherwise, because on television, every country on Earth that has television, with the possible exception of Russia and maybe a handful of others, will watch the landing on the moon live at the same time we are. In this country, it'll be in the middle of the night. In various other countries, it will, of course, be at various times, depending on where they are. But in any case, a number have announced that Monday will be a holiday, either because people will want to stay home and see it during the day, or because they will have been up half the night or all night looking at it. There has been no such happy announcement forthcoming in this country. A few minutes ago, Vice President Agnew, who was here among the VIP guests, went into the firing room here next door, where the launch is controlled, walked around, admired what they were doing, and then using a PA system made a little speech to those in the room. Here's how it was on videotape.
A team of specialists, scientists, engineers, and other experts that have been assembled in this program disseminated because someone was too short-sighted to provide enough of the material support to continue with these programs. Now, the president has awesome responsibilities, as you know, at a time when inflation's running away in this country. He's got a problem with trying to decide the priorities, the human priorities that are necessary to allocate what wealth we have, at the same time bringing this inflation under control. I would shudder to have those responsibilities right at this moment that he has. Unfortunately, things are not made easier for him because many people don't seem to be able to evaluate properly exactly how the thrust of the spending should be apportioned. And maybe nobody can do that. Maybe that's a job for a superhuman being. But I feel this, that as the president of the Space Council, and having had such an intimate contact with NASA and with the other agencies that collaborate so wonderfully to bring about these results, that this is America, that this is the future of our country, and that the gains that come from this program are going to be the greatest, going to constitute the greatest fallout for the advancement of all our citizens that anything we could do could bring about. So all I can say to you is we'll be there pitching for you, and you stick with us, we'll stick with you, and together we'll do this job. Thank you very much.
That was Vice President Agnew, of course, here next door in the firing room talking to the NASA people who were in charge of the launch. And you heard what he said. This is March 16th, 1969. And the other night I was talking with some NASA people who pointed out that 40 years after Lindbergh flew the Atlantic alone for the first time, 20,000 people every day fly the Atlantic, from babies to grandmothers. And what will grow out of this in 40 years, obviously we don't know.